We're continuing on with our program of Global Art Forum, and we have a very special day today. It's actually a very unique opportunity because it's really one of the first times that we have such an amazing panel of people here in Dubai talking about an amazing project which is in Abu Dhabi, and which is also very wide and can touch very many countries in the Arab world, which is ADACH, which is the Abu Dhabi Authority for Culture and Heritage. And today we're going to be talking about the projects of ADACH, but also not only about the projects, but about ideas that are being developed and being thought about and being discussed, research that's being done. And so it's a kind of a multi-topic day. This morning we're going to start with a very easy conversation about the goals, the visions, the perspectives of ADACH. And we're very delighted to have His Excellency Zaki Naisibi, who's the advisor of the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, Deputy Chairman of ADACH. And with him is Dr. Sami el-Masri, who is really the director of the Strategic Planning Office. That means between the two of them, they're basically building this strategy, talking about it, thinking with people. Some of them are in this room. Presenting them will be Andras Fantos, who's coming to us from the Sotheby's Institute. Okay. And he's also the director of the NEA Arts Journalism Institute at Columbia. Andras is also a very avid commentator, critic for the arts, and he will be developing a lot of the thoughts, presenting some views, and then moderating panels that will be coming up. So, Andras, take it away.
Thank you, Maria, and welcome everybody. As a pale-faced Northern European American, I have great respect for everybody who has chosen to leave the beach and come into this dark, air-conditioned tent. That shows a genuine commitment for the topic and for the kind of engagement that this forum allows us to have. I want to thank my distinguished panelists who, despite their extraordinary accomplishments and honorific titles, have agreed to conduct the conversation on a first-name basis today. We will be joined by Ambassador Cynthia Schneider later on, but for the first hour, it's just going to be the three of us up here. I'd also like to acknowledge ADACH, the Art Dubai, and of course the Art Forum itself, which I think has done just a magnificent job of integrating real cultural dialogues into this week that really creates a whole different dimension to this event here in Dubai. I would also finally like to acknowledge the presence of some of my students at the Sotheby's Institute of Art and some of my fellow professors. Very pleased that they're here. We're here, I think, all of us, because of a profound sense of curiosity. The cultural projects that are going on in the Gulf are awe-inspiring, extraordinary. For those of us who are working with cultural institutions in the United States or Europe, I think we're all a little bit jealous as well that such extraordinary projects are able to take root here. And they are certainly transforming this region. And they are, in many respects, among the most extraordinary series of cultural investments in the history not only of this region, but of the world. The level of ambition here is very, very high. That much we know, and I think many of us have made a kind of pilgrimage here this year, last year, some of you maybe for the third time, to understand the scope of all of this and to be exposed to all of it. Yet for all of that, I think we all know really quite little. We have read some press releases, we have seen some pictures of buildings that are going to rise, but our sense of what is truly in the works, of what kind of values animate these projects, of what is yet to come, is narrow and vague. So we are here today to try to fill in some of these blanks, to clarify the picture, and especially for the perspective of Abu Dhabi, which of course is the capital of the Emirates and is the wealthiest part of the region, and where some of the most comprehensive and largest projects are taking shape today and in the years to come. But here too, with respect to Abu Dhabi, I suspect that most people in the room have a very narrow understanding of what's going on, probably largely confined to the building projects slated for Saadiyat Island, performing arts facilities, as a number of museums being built by brand name architects, 4 brand name museums, which are very, very exciting in their own right. But as you will discover today, they are really only a first piece of a much larger puzzle. So my hope is that today, by the time we complete, especially the first part of this dialogue, you will have a broader understanding of what lies beyond these buildings. Because the fact is, listening to the conversations in the last few days here, also back in Doha where we had a couple of meetings, many very important and I think urgent questions are being asked. Again, where's the culture that goes beyond the buildings? What about local living culture? What about the engagement of the citizens of the Emirates and of artists from here and from the region? How will these investments allow people to rediscover their heritage, to develop their sense of their own identity, to integrate into global cultural flows? These are all very important questions. And I think on the long term, we're also fascinated to hear and think about what kind of contributions will follow from these stupendous investments. How will, when all of this is up and running, and again, there's more to this picture than you probably thought there was. When it's all up and running, how will it change the tone and the texture, not only of this region, but I think of the wider cultural landscape around the world? Very simply and crudely, somebody, I think, summed it up very well. Perhaps we can ask, what is the software that's going to drive the hardware? And what is the new software that will emerge from the hardware? So that's really what we're here to talk about today. And the next 2 hours are going to be sort of a play in 2 parts and 4 acts. First, I'm going to have a discussion here with our first 2 guests, who, as has been described to you, are 2 of the most knowledgeable people to relate to you what's happening in Abu Dhabi. Zaki, because he has been present at the creation, has been not only an observer but a participant in this narrative that leads to this day for about 40 years, from the time that there were no roads, literally, around here. And Sami, who is coordinating the specific projects and strategies for ADACH, and who has a hands-on understanding of each of the component parts. So once we've had a little conversation, we will invite a few questions from you, because I know you'll have questions. And I just want to say up front, if you do ask questions, which we encourage you to do, please let us know who you are, because it is, after all, a conversation. So after that, we will invite Cynthia Schneider to join us, and we will have another type of conversation, which will be more geared to the outside world. It will be about cultural diplomacy and the question of what do cultural investment, what can culture do when it comes to projecting values from within to the outside world, and how can culture and arts change and improve and ameliorate relationships between countries and regions and continents. After that, too, we will have some questions, and then we will go off the stage, but the program itself continues. So some of the themes that we may be visiting very briefly this morning will be further examined in much greater detail. For example, there's a panel on museums immediately following ours, so please do stick around.